All right, now we're going to do a little bit about part setup. I've actually got the part clamped in here already. One thing I want you to know is I got a clamp over here on it, and I've got a standoff with a stainless screw. All this is stainless, and the rails are stainless too, but I've got a penny right there on top of my rail. That's to protect my rail from the screws, all right? We don't want to get into the rails with the screws. That's why the penny is there to protect that. So we've got that there. Now, what we're going to do, I took a machinist square, and I squared this part to the rail. So it's setting perpendicular to the rail. If I had something that was very critical, I would do more than just use a square, and we can do a part pickup and actually indicate the part and set the axis rotation and what the angle of the part actually is. We're not going to do that because we're just burning this out of the block. What we're interested in is the part that we're burning out, so it's going to be square when it's burned out. But we've got it square enough that we know that it's not going to run into the other saw guide whenever we go to do it. All right. The first thing on the part setup that we're going to do, we're going to start to move the machine, and we're going to set the lower flush cut distance and the upper flush cut distance from the part. Okay, the lower flush cup is actually set. Both flush cups we're going to set 8 thousandths away from the part. We got to do 8 thousandths clearance. But this flush cup here actually screws on and off. If you'll notice right here, it screws on and off. I'm not going to screw it all the way off, but when you screw it off, we've got Teflon tape on the thread, so that makes the flush cup tight. What we'll do, we'll screw it down, go underneath the part, and back it out with a feeler gauge until we get the flush cup to just ride on the actual, to get clearance right there between the parts. Now, this may be a trick for me to do this one-handed, but we're going to try it. Right here, I've got a pendant. I'm going to pick the pendant up, and I can actually take and hit the pendant button. That allows me to use the pendant, all right? So when I hit pendant, it allows me to start jogging or do whatever I need to do. I'm going to take, and I can move an X negative, X positive, whatever. You can see I'm moving X negative there. My speeds for jogging are right here, and it's hard for me to keep my eyes on everything, folks. I'm sorry if my video is not good. But I've got rapid, high, and mid, and low, all right? So we're just going to leave it set fast right now. I'm going to do a Y positive, and I'm going to go right underneath the part, all right? I'm going to set my pendant down for a minute, and I'm going to grab my feeler gauge, which is 0.2 millimeters, which is the same thing as 8 thousandths, all right? And I'm going to come in and use my feeler gauge, put it right here underneath the part and the flush cup. I'm going to do it one-handed, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. And I'm just adjusting it up until I get enough drag that I know I'm 8 thousandths from the part. I think I've went to, no, I'm not in there too far. It slipped out. Not there yet. Right there, I just got a little bit of drag, so I'm pretty good shape. All right, so I'm gonna pull out of that. That's got my lower flush cup set, okay? The reason it's important to get that lower flush cup set is that 8 thousandths clearance, that allows the flush to go up through the cut and not flush out at the bottom of the part, okay? You want enough gap to keep that flushing pressure up in the cut to flush those chips out. Now, whether it's on a sinker EDM or a wire EDM, flush is really important because it has to get those tiny little particles that are being vaporized, and the sparks has to be blown out of there, because if the wire actually comes in contact with the workpiece, it'll DC arc, burn the wire in two, and short out, and it'll quit, okay? So we got to keep that in mind. Now, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to set the stroke limit to set this one up on top. And I can actually come to my pendant, and I can go down in Z. I'm going to hit Z negative, and you can see what I'm doing right here. And I can come down there. But before I go all the way down, I'm going to come over to my screen, and I can go to the position button. And when I click position, there is a stroke limit right here. So I'm going to click on stroke limit. All right. And right up here you can see where our stroke is actually at. The little dot represents that. But I'm going to come right here and say cancel. All right. When I hit cancel, that cancels out any stroke limit that's set in there right now at the time. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to go down in Z. And I'm just going to get close to the workpiece, but then I'm going to slow down. I'm going to come over here and I'll go down to mid. Get a little bit closer. All right, once I get to where I'm pretty close, I can go down to low and maybe get there just a little bit closer. All right, now I'm down close. You can see I'm down pretty close to the part. We're going to come over here, and instead of doing jogging, I'm going to hit the step button. Right now, you can see on my pendant, it says J. If I hit the step button, it goes to I, okay? And I'm going to actually do high times 10, all right? And what that's going to do, every click that I do on my Z negative is going to turn out to be 1/1000th of an inch, all right? So I've got to take my feeler gauge, put it right here, and I've got to keep hitting my step button until it gets under to it. Now, I'm going to have to lay the camera down for a second because I can't do this with the camera in one hand and another. So I'm going to do it and then we'll come back. I've got you laying on the rail right now looking at the water. So I'm just going to take and do my step, and I'm going to go Z negative. And just keep doing that over and over again until I find, right now, I'm down and I'm feeling drag on my feeler gauge, okay? That drag on my feeler gauge means I'm where I need to be. So I'm going to come back up here to where it says stroke limit, and right beside cancel it says limit, and I'm going to hit it, and it set my stroke limit right there at -9.14864. Okay, so now I've actually got my stroke limit set. If you want to see that your stroke limit is actually set, you will see a green light right here on the Z. All right, that green light means it's at its stroke limit. All right, so I can now go back to the pendant and I can hit the jog again, and I can go rapid, and I'm gonna go up in Z. I go up in Z, I go away from it. Now what I want you to look at, I come back over here, my Z light's still green. I looked at the wrong one, sorry. But my Z return is not green, all right? So if I hit Z return, I'm gonna hit it, and you'll see it'll go right back down to the stroke limit. When it arrives at the stroke limit, the Z return will turn green. So we've got our stroke limit set. You can also jog over here on this with the buttons. You can do Z positive right here without using a pendant. All right. If I'm going to do a wire threading like I'm getting ready to do here in a second, we want to be about a ½ inch above the part. Just eyeball that. You don't have to be perfect. So I've got it sitting down here like right over the top of the part. Okay. Now we've got our flush cup, our lower flush cup set, our upper flush cup set, and we have got the stroke limit set by doing the upper flush cup. All right, and remember that it's 0.08 for both, and remember that's important for the flush. Okay, so we got Teflon tape holds it on the bottom. My door is falling down because the gas shocks are not as good as they once were up at the top, but now we've got everything set on that. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here, and then we'll come back and do some more.